Welcome to One-on-One with B'nai International. I'm your host, CEO Dan Mariaschin. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I hope you're staying home, wearing your masks, washing your hands, and taking good care of yourselves. Our goal is to bring you conversations that provide meaningful perspectives on a whole range of topics. My guest today is Jeff Cottingham. Jeff is property manager for the Robert Cottingham Property Management Company in Peoria, Illinois. And he runs the day-to-day operations of the business and is on the front line of the coronavirus response for the properties that he oversees. The company currently manages 19 facilities with 1,300 units. All the properties are federally assisted housing for the developmentally disabled, housing for the homeless, or independent elderly. And Jeff has been involved with various federal housing programs for years. He has a wealth of experience interacting with property owners, investors, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, as well as managing a range of property management activity. Now, as part of his role, Jeff also oversees the Sam J. Stone B'nai Apartments in Peoria, in which he has had a role in administering since he began his career in 1984, working with his father. Jeff, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, Dan. Pleasure to be here.
Well, before we get started and we talk about seniors and the properties in which they live in a time of coronavirus, I think it's important to talk about definitions. We talk about independent living, assisted living. We talk about nursing homes. And nursing homes have been very much, of course, in the news since this pandemic began. So maybe it's best for you to just tell us about each and where the Sam Stone property fits in.
Certainly. The property here in Peoria, as most of the B'nai properties, obviously is independent living. And by definition, the residents have to be able to live quote unquote independently with the help of services or without the help of services. We're not a nursing home. We don't provide medication distribution and nursing services. We do have service coordinators on staff, thankfully, and their sole responsibility is connecting the independent residents with the services that they need in the outside community that can help them function here at the apartments.
So how do you see confronting this great challenge that you have? You've got all of your residents are at risk. I'm sure some of them do have underlying conditions, to use the term which is used today. So even though they are able to get around, you have a tremendous responsibility. How are you confronting it? What are some of the issues that you've encountered that have surprised you, and what has been rewarding for you, and what remains to be done?
Thank you. I think initially speaking, we can't go at combating the coronavirus as if we were in a situation where we can just lock everybody down. They can come and go as they please. They go to the grocery store themselves. They go to their own doctor's appointments for the most part, go to the pharmacies if the pharmacies aren't delivering here. So it's been kind of touchy, if you will, to try to control the spread of germs with the amount of people coming and going. We try to stay ahead of the progression of the coronavirus, at least in the state of Illinois, as we followed the benchmarks. HUD came out with their guidelines on March 3rd. We suggested at that point to our residents council at about March 13th to cancel all of their programs. Now that was a little bit difficult to swallow right off the bat. Bingo being one of the very important topics for them each week. So to cancel their meetings and gatherings was very difficult. So we made that suggestion on the 13th of March. And then the 16th of March, we closed the community rooms. At that point, there were only about 100 cases of the coronavirus in the state of Illinois. So we tried to stay ahead of that. We implemented a very rigorous cleaning process from the get-go in this building. just to stem the spread of the disease if it in fact came into the building. Um, Long about the 20th of March, um, we were deemed essential operation, so our staff stayed in place, continued to work, and we added the cleaning throughout the weekends as well. So we actually added hours to our staff so that they could be in here cleaning over the weekends as well. The 21st, there's a shelter-in-place order given by the state of Illinois. So shortly after that, we decided to restrict the number of visitors to the building to 1 per unit. That's about to the extent that we've gone at this point. Until we actually have a verified case in our building, we don't want to lock down any further than that, and cause hardship any further on the residents. We have left the Residence Council gift shop open, so that they could get groceries and things that they need. We also have a grocery store that stays open. We have left our bus service intact with restrictions on the number of people riding it. And then the meal program, you can see behind me the community room, which is typically very vibrant,
Sure.
quite closed down. The commercial kitchen behind me, they're still preparing the morning and evening meals, but they're being delivered to the apartments. So we've kind of played the balancing act on what to shut down and what to leave open. The governor just gave us a new mandate starting May 1st through May 30th, continued or extended shelter in place, and then requiring face masks in public at that point. So we're going to be implementing that as well for May 1st.
So up to now, in fact, Jeff, how does that work? Because all of us are wearing masks. We're not wearing it on this program, but we're all wearing masks. I'm in a large condominium building, and a lot of people wear the masks just in the hallways, even when they go to throw out the trash or when they go down to get their mail. Are you providing masks to the residents? Do they get their own masks? Do family members send them in for them? How does that work? It's so important.
Well, at this point, we have had the ability to link up with various friends and family members that have been making masks. So we have provided to our buildings, upon request, masks to the residents. So we'll put it out there. If you don't have a source for a mask, we'll give you one. And we have, at this point, I think, given out 500 masks, or have acquired 500 masks to give out. I don't know if we've given them all out at this point. We encourage the use of masks. We're not requiring it at this point, but we've encouraged it strongly. And as May 1st rolls around, with again the governor's new mandate, we may require it more than encourage the use. So in our processes, we've been handing those out along with all the other activities packets and things like that with the residents, that we try to keep them involved, and we're trying to keep them involved in so many of our decision-making processes and day-to-day activities from their apartments as much as possible.
Yeah, I want to ask you, how do you communicate with the residents? I mean, are you putting notices under the door? You're putting it outside the door? Is there some kind of other system that allows them to be up to date on the latest information?
Absolutely. So we have bulletin boards throughout the building on the individual floors. They're still coming down to get their mail. So we're placing notifications and important information in very visible areas, because we know they're still coming down to get their mail at this particular point. But we've also devised other systems if they want to take part in some of the activities that we're putting out, the color books, the heart cutouts, the seek and find word pages. If they want popcorn delivered when we're making our popcorn on Fridays, or Easter eggs delivered to them at Easter, we have a color-coded system, and they have baskets on the door. So if they want to take part, they'll put a blue card in the basket. If they don't want to take part, then they'll put a red or yellow card in the basket. They have the baskets on the doors that we can deliver any notifications that we need to, any recertification processes that we have to go through, not have contact with them, we can place them in the doors, and they can um, take part that way.
Well, my experience, and I'm sure yours as well, and all those who are watching, has been that most people really abide by the guidelines. How do your residents deal with the issue of social distancing? You've got elevators in the building.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, for example, in the building that I'm in now, we've reached the point where if you're in the elevator and it stops at another floor, the etiquette is to say, okay, I'll wait for the next one. I see that happens. Is
Right.
this happening pretty much with your residents as well?
It is, and actually, one of the largest decisions, factors in the decision of restricting the visitors to the building, um, was the use of the elevators itself. So we had residents coming to us with the concern that, not necessarily the residents who were really abiding by wearing the masks, but when you have, you know, 3 or 4 people get on a small elevator, you're definitely not social distancing. So um, that's one of the main factors that pushed us to restrict the number of folks in the building, was the amount the elevator was being used by multiple people. So we do have, the residents are really kind and abiding by their social distance guidelines. So did that answer the
Yeah, no,
question?
I think that's the question, because I think that uh, you know in a situation where all of the residents are in an at-risk category,
Mhm.
and I mean, I can't imagine, notwithstanding the fact that everybody goes about their daily lives and their daily business just like we all do, they know that they're in that special category. Not that there aren't others in other demographic categories, of course, that haven't been hit hard, but this must have hit them like it hit everybody else. And knowing the protocols and the etiquettes and so forth, of course, is a big part of getting through all of this. And it's good to hear that that they're able to do this, and that they're more than willing
Yes.
to do that. I want to go back to food for just a second, because you said that some meals are delivered. You also have a van service.
Yeah.
How many of the folks are actually going out to the grocery to shop?
We have restricted the number of riders on the van at this point. So it's one person per seat. It's normally a bench seat that can hold 12 folks. So we restrict to 6 at a time. And
Well,
the garbage chutes are
it
now
shows
open.
that you have a public address system. That's important.
Absolutely. That's another main source of announcements. So back to the number of people going to the grocery stores. We have a very scheduled van service. We're restricting 6 riders per van at the moment, so they can actually, distance themselves within the bus. The driver is wearing a mask. So when they're going out, I don't think that we are utilizing that to the fullest capacity at this point. So at this point, we may be getting 3 or 4 riders at a time, 3 times, 4 times a week. So I think the residents have really imposed, the
Their own
stay-at-home order on
self
themselves.
quarantine. Sure,
Yeah, you
sure.
bet.
Well,
You bet.
like many others. What about visitors? What about family visitors or friends? How do you handle that?
So again, we restricted to 1 visitor per unit at any one time. Unfortunately, it has been a little bit difficult. Uh, but I think in these particular times, it's best to have a family member coming and checking on their senior adult family member. Leave the kids at home. Don't bring the kids to the facility. That has been a little bit difficult. I think that it really plays on the mental well-being of some of our folks here, that they can't have the grandkids just coming and going and
Sure.
visiting. That's not saying that on a beautiful day like today, it's sunny and 65 degrees outside right now, that they can't come and visit on the lawn or in the yard. And we do at times have, families that are gathering out here just to visit like that. But unfortunately, at this point, and as far as through May 30th, we're going to continue with that 1 visitor restriction.
Well, you've been in this field for 36 years. And of course, I'm sure at no point along the way did you ever expect anything quite like this.
No.
But what are when you entered the field to work with your dad, and you stayed with it? What do you see as the great rewards from working with seniors and really looking after them and making sure that they're having that dignified life in their golden years? What are some of the rewards that you've had from this field and from the service that you perform?
Well, I think initially, right off the bat, knowing that what we do in our office is touching the lives of, 1,300 folks, and doing our best to providing the best living facilities that we can in the golden years for these folks. That in itself is most rewarding. We, though, even in this difficult time, we've had a lot of residents come to us thanking us for doing our part, taking care, placing the Stay Strong banner on the end of the building to face the hospitals, which were a few blocks away. We just have had comment after comment and shows of appreciation from the board of directors here, a wonderful board of directors who have given their complete support and constant words of encouragement to the residents, to members of the public that are just, you're doing a good job. And that's all that we can ask for, is that, we do the best that we can for the residents that we're taking care of.
Let's talk about the staff for just a second, because we can't leave them out. There's a senior facility just across the street from where I live and where I'm doing this podcast with you. And there's a big banner outside that building. I can see it from here, where it says, "Those who wear orange are our heroes."
Mm-hmm.
So we owe a great debt of gratitude to these folks who come in every day, the ones who clean and cook the food and maintain the building. What can you say about those folks on your staff?
I can't say enough. There's no words that I can really throw out there to show my appreciation. These folks come in here knowing that it's a difficult situation to get up and come into work every day as it is, but the added routines of sanitizing and cleaning that we've imposed on them, the different restrictions, having to deliver meals to the residents and so on and so forth. I just cannot express enough how wonderful I think the staff has been through all this, and continue to. I know we have to continue to encourage and renew the enthusiasm for our staff, and I try to do that on a weekly basis. But it just they have just shown up and have done a fantastic job, from office staff to maintenance staff to kitchen staff. Every one of them, I pat them each on the shoulder and say good job, when I could pat them on the shoulder, I should say.
Well, give them our thanks too, if you would. One more question, Jeff. Your family has had a long association with B'nai B'rith, which we're
Yes.
quite proud. What are the added benefits of being a part of the B'nai B'rith Center for Senior Services Housing Network for you?
Well, I tell you, in this particular time, it's been very helpful being involved with the Center for Senior Services, getting HUD updates and the outreach that they have on Capitol Hill when needed, if we needed that. But the networking with the other property managers in the system has been tremendous. Just to bounce ideas back and forth, what are you using in this aspect, and conversations on putting air sanitizing systems in the HVAC, just conversations back and forth with different folks around the country. And it's just been tremendous. So with the HUD aspect and the networking aspect, it's been very beneficial to have this group of individuals to be able to give ideas or get ideas from.
And just one more note, looking ahead, because hopefully this will be behind us at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. As someone who has worked really for more than 3 decades in the field, What do you see as the challenges for your field ahead? Where are we going as we move? Now we're into a quarter of this century, but looking down the road, what are the real challenges? What more can be done
Right.
to assist seniors in the facilities, the kinds of facilities that you manage, and of course thousands and thousands of others around the country?
Right. Well, I think starting very short term, I think we're worrying about the mental well-being, of our folks here in the next 30 days with the continued shelter-in-place order, and I assume that it's even going to go longer now. We'll see. You worry about the immediate mental well-being, and the service coordinators are doing a great job checking with and following up with the residents on that. I think this changes our way of keeping our buildings clean from this point forward. We used to come in and weekly cleaning was a good spotless cleaning, and I think as we look at this going forward, many facilities around the country are going to say, okay, a weekly cleaning not going to touch some of the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, we may have to broaden our staffs, ask HUD for a little bit more money for an additional staff person to be able to maintain a daily sanitization, even after this COVID crisis is over. One of the things that I do have a concern about, and this happened now maybe a decade and a half ago, in economic downturn, a number of seniors moved in with family instead of moving into wonderful facilities like we have. They would stay in the family unit, and their income and would be really part of the family structure. And then grandma or grandpa would be at home to be able to take care of the kids, so the rest of the family could work. I think with the financial problems that we're going to be seeing in this country, you may see a time at which we have trouble getting people into our facilities because they're living in the family unit and contributing much more to the family unit. I hope that's not the case, but I've seen it before, like I say, about a decade and a half ago, and I think that it could happen again.
Yeah, it's almost in a way coming full circle. There was a time in this country 100 years ago, a nuclear family, everybody living together, right? Grandparents, children, and grandchildren. And of course, that all changed. And it's an interesting point that you've raised. Well, look, so many things that we took for granted or things that we didn't need to do, we are doing, and it definitely will have an impact on so many lives going forward. And Jeff, really, we wish you the very best. We know that entrusted in your hands and those of your company and colleagues, the lives of so many folks, giving them a dignified life in their golden years. Of course, this is the most important thing. It's part of the fifth commandment of honor thy father and thy mother. We all take it very seriously, and it's good to know that people like you are at the helm of these facilities with these folks whom we greatly value. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Well, my thanks to Jeff Cottingham for joining me, and thank you for tuning in to One-on-One with B'nai B'rith International. Like what you hear? Make sure you never miss a program by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and be sure to visit our website, b'naibrith.org, learn about our work, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. For my guest, Jeff Cottingham, I'm your host, Dan Mariaschin. We'll talk to you next time on One-on-One with B'nai B'rith International. Take care, everyone.